Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. Ukraine War news update, second part thereof for the 23rd of March 2024. Should be a relatively quick video compared to what it normally is, this one. Not a crazy amount of news. I just want to dip back into the terrorist attack on the Crocus City venue that took place last night and has led to the death of many. It's interesting that the Putin administration has apparently, this is according to Medusa, the Russian exiled news agency, Putin's administration has instructed Russian state-funded and pro-government media to emphasize possible quote, traces of Ukrainian involvement in their reporting on Friday's Crocus City Hall terrorist attack, according to Medusa sources. Exactly what I said earlier, which is I think this is a genuine terrorist attack. I don't think it was a full-on false flag operation, but I do think that Russia will be massively opportunistic in trying to sell it as this essentially somehow the fault of Ukraine in some way. And indeed, Putin has finally come out after 20 hours and talked about it, reportedly talking about the four perpetrators reportedly trying to escape, quote, moving towards Ukraine. And that's what Putin has said, where allegedly a window for them to cross the border had been prepared. So Ukraine will no doubt be the fall guy for this, and that's how Putin's going to sell it, and that will allow him to gain, whatever he can from it in terms of popular support for his war, people feeling vindictive towards Ukraine and therefore justifying mobilization, so on and so forth. Right, let's go to military aid and equipment. Just a few bits and pieces here. The EU is at a turning point, says Le Monde, with initiatives that would have been unimaginable a short while ago. 27 member states are no longer ruling out going into debt together to finance their defense industry and deliver arms to Ukraine. We are moving into a different geopolitical era at the moment where we are essentially in a time of war, whether some of our populations understand this or not. And you can argue that much of the population in the US don't understand this. Politically speaking, it's not being reported as much. And even, in European countries where the Ukraine war has receded from national headlines, and you look at the massive attacks yesterday, yet the terrorist attack got on the news big time in Moscow. But where was the large discussions of the barrage of missiles sent into Ukraine? Difficult to find on news media websites. But I think politicians recognise that this is serious. And as a result, they're doing things that they otherwise wouldn't normally have done, which is moving themselves into debt from each country's point of view within the EU, possibly, in order to fund defence more than they would previously have done. I was speaking to Greg and Jenny just now, and they're saying, and they speak to so many people, commanders, people high up, things are not looking good on the front lines. There's no doubt about that. Things are really actually very tough, even though I've been saying recently this seemed like it's culminating a bit on the front lines. The Ukrainians are finding it very, very difficult. And they need just loads of equipment. They need air defences. They need F-16s, because at the moment, the Russian airframes are operating almost with impunity again, using guided glide bombs all over the front line, even coming into Sumy Oblast. They were saying that airframes are crossing the border even in Sumy Oblast. I can't talk to that, but these are challenges that would be resolved. These problems would be resolved with just a lot of air defense ammunition and air defense systems. It's just things. ATACMS missiles to be able to attack air bases within occupied territories so that they can't fly out and do these missions to drop these aerial bombs. Just the West needs to get together and give a whole load more stuff. It's a continued need for the Ukrainians. They'll do the fighting, we provide the stuff. And it's not like, okay, we'll do that for a couple of months and then we'll be over then. No, this is a much longer term project that's evolving in front of us, and the West needs to stand united. Allies need to stand united behind Ukraine for the long term, and need to do things that will expedite a victory for Ukraine, not just eking out some kind of stasis. At the moment, amazingly, there's been a sort of stasis. Well, the Russians have made gains, but at huge expense to the Russians, but huge expense to the Ukrainians as well. We need to do more. And sadly, the US as well is a part of that, needing to do more. And I'm not trying to lay blame solely at, say, the US's feet for the impasse in Congress, but it certainly is an issue. The UK has announced a new military aid package for Ukraine. The country's defence ministry stated that over 60 million British pounds will be allocated for advanced drone systems for Ukraine, with an additional 20 million quid designated to supply air defence systems. And that's exactly what they need, air defence systems. Just that can't get to Ukraine soon enough. And at the same time, Russia's began using their own new type of drone here, the B drone in Ukraine, according to Russian channels. The drone is capable of carrying and airdropping other FPV drones. So this is like a mothership. Moreover, it also serves as a signal repeater. So we've seen this from things like Baba Yagas, drones that drop other drones. And then that larger drone, which can then sit not as far into enemy territory, sends off the other drones that can then go a further 10 kilometers or more. And their signals can be repeated back to the operators by using that, in this case, the B drone, as a signal repeater. So the Russians are now playing around with those ideas as well. That technology too. Right, moving on to geopolitical stuff, so not too much from the previous segment. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, has completely reversed his somewhat conservative course towards Russia. He said that partner countries and allies in the issue of support for Ukraine will from now on focus on the required intensity of assistance, not just its duration. This is good news. We need to up what we do as well as doing it for as long as it takes. Well, we no longer say we'll simply support Ukraine for as long as it takes. We officially say that we will support as intensively as it takes. So yeah, we'll help you as long as it takes. That's like 25 years. Is that all right? Because we've got time if you've got the people, right? So we'll be here. We'll help you just a little bit now, and a little bit here, and a little bit there. 25 years. No. It's like, right, we'll help you for as long as it takes. We need to get this thing done quickly. And so we're going to help you as much as possible right now. And here's everything you need right now. So not eking it out. And I presume that's what he's going for here. And that's a kind of rhetoric together with victory as well, using the term, Ukrainian victory. Is what we need to hear. The first round of presidential elections is underway in Slovakia. So the Prime Minister, Robert Fico, is very much pro-Russian. They have a pro-Western, pro-EU president at the moment, but there's new elections underway. Both the Prime Minister-backed current Speaker, Peter Pellegrini, and so he's a Speaker, but he's going for President, and a pro-Western opposition candidate, Ivan Korkot, has a chance of winning. Pellegrini's victory could lead to all power being concentrated in the hands of Prime Minister Robert Fico, similar to the Hungarian counterpart Viktor Orban. So if you have that pro-Fidesz, pro-Orban, pro-Russia candidate winning for president there, then you have right across the board your support for the Russian narrative. It's really important that the opposition candidate prevails in that to keep Slovakia at least somewhere near the right track. And at the same time, as reported earlier, Serbian president had a National Security Council meeting today after the terrorist attack in Russia. Now they'll go after Russian opposition in Serbia to completely silence them. This is how the Serbian and Russian intelligence operate, says Ivana Stradner in reaction to the RT, to that Russia Today reporting on what's going on in Serbia. It is a real challenge in that neck of the woods for sure. Right, now moving to the US, and pretty much as we're going to leave it, there's just not that much news today. Thankfully, I want a day off. Marjorie Taylor Greene is hard pressed to find support for the motion to vacate Johnson. So, as we heard yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene has brought forward this motion. It's not one of the stronger ones where people actually have to vote within 2 business days. As I did report yesterday, drawing on one article, I think the article was incorrect. This is, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has admitted this is a shot across the bow. So I don't know that it's going to be one that people are rushing to vote for or whatever. And in fact, it has brought out a lot of criticism, even from Fox News criticising Marjorie Taylor Greene. Some of the pundits on there are not happy. We've got fellow Republicans taking a bit of a harder line on Marjorie Taylor Greene. So as Representative Carlos Jimenez says, a Florida Republican, I completely oppose any motion to vacate. Mike Johnson is a principled man working to deliver results in a divided government. Speaker Johnson is in the same situation Kevin McCarthy was in. I consider Marjorie Taylor Greene to be my friend, says Clay Higgins, a Republican from Los Angeles. She's still my friend, but she just made a big mistake trying to vacate Mike Johnson. I totally oppose that. Mike is a very good man. He begins every day from the right place. He's deeply principled, and he's like a brother to me. And Mike Collins from Georgia says, I sure hope, Republican again, I sure hope nobody vacates the speaker again. So I do not. So Jared Moskovich, who is a very forthright Democrat from Florida, says, I do not support Speaker Johnson, but I will never stand by and let Marjorie Taylor Greene take over the People's House. In other words, Democrats are also coming out in support of Mike Johnson, or at least against Marjorie Taylor Greene's movement here. Tom Suozzi, who's a newly appointed Democrat congressman from New York, has said, the idea that he would be kicked out by these jokers is absurd. I don't think that this will go anywhere particularly, but certainly it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. Now, the reason I'm focusing on Mike Johnson is because he is seen by many, including myself, as being the main obstacle towards Ukraine getting the aid from the US that they so desperately need. That is because of the sort of Damocles being held over him by Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, particularly Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and possibly Trump as well. That kind of movement. Interestingly, as it says here in the article, the other 6 Republican members who voted out McCarthy have notably remained aloof in their opinions. So people like Matt Gaetz, only one Representative Tim Burchett, revealed he will vote against vacating the speaker. The others have not come out for or against Johnson since Greene filed a motion. So yeah, as I say, I don't think this is going to go anywhere, which is I think good news if we're just thinking about, like, I'm putting my views of Mike Johnson aside, but I'm just thinking in terms of aid to Ukraine, and I genuinely think Mike Johnson actually does want to give aid to Ukraine. I genuinely do, but I think for him it's more important that he doesn't lose his speaker role and keeps Trump in Trump's good graces, really. And so he is compromised, and that's why we haven't seen the bill put to the floor. But I think if Marjorie Taylor Greene gets kind of rebutted here, and if there's a genuine view that what she's trying to do is not cool, then you might start seeing a bit of a move towards a more bipartisan effort to get aid to Ukraine, because I think that the feeling is generally there, and it's just being held up by Mike Johnson, and Mike Johnson is himself being held up by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is being being manipulated by Trump. So if you kind of break that, then you might see aid. The problem is that Trump still rules the Republican Party, and it's kind of got worse for the Republicans. So just to say, several House Democrats are signaling they would vote to save House Speaker Mike Johnson from the GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's effort to oust him if he agreed to put a Ukraine aid package on the House floor for an up or down vote. Now, this was originally more to do with the deal he did with Mike Johnson. He did with the Democrats over appropriations, over keeping the government open, and the Ukraine bill is the next issue along the line. He's still going to feel pressured, though, I think, from Trump, but I don't know if Trump's that bothered overtly about the aid bill as much as Marjorie Taylor Greene appears to be. Anyway, it's getting worse for the Republicans in terms of their control over the House of Representatives, because their slim majority has now gone down to one. And we knew that Mike Gallagher was not going to run in November, but he's now done what Ken Buck did, which is say, actually, I'm going to leave early. I'm getting out of Dodge. So Mike Gallagher, who is something of a moderate, will resign early, leaving a House majority hanging by a thread. And of course, this then gives Democrats more of a sense of being able to achieve what they want with their agenda, and that may well include aid to Ukraine. However, there are several issues here, which is one, it still needs to be, there's still a majority where, so the Speaker, Mike Johnson, still has that power to put this to the floor or not. And if he's still not going to do that, you've still got the same problem. It doesn't matter how many Republicans will or won't vote for it. If Mike Johnson doesn't table it, doesn't put it to the floor. But also, you are just in general, although this might be good for Democrats, Democrats might be looking at this and thinking, yeah, this is another scalp for us effectively. This is also signaling a change to the Republican Party, where you're seeing moderates leave because of the hijacking of the party by MAGA effectively. And if he is then replaced by a MAGA candidate in his district, then what you are seeing is a further evolution of that party as it morphs into Trump's party and not the Republican Party of old. So there are ramifications that are probably not good for the whole political sphere, although you could be a sort of Democrat that looks at that and says, well, actually, if the party is properly hijacked by MAGA, then it will struggle to get that universal appeal and get voted in as easily. So that could work for the Democrats in terms of larger elections. I don't know. There are so many variables here and ways to slice and dice this. But anyway, the reason why I'm telling you all this is because this has an effect on whether Ukraine aid will get voted through, or even whether it gets, put to the floor. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. There's not too much news today. Take care. Speak soon. Toodle pips.